Okay, so I've got some plans in terms of collecting. For a while, when it comes to collecting, and I've been saying this in a lot of videos, I don't have that many games left on my list that I want, and generally things get added, but like a lot of the stuff is nowhere near me. So, something that I've started doing is check this out. See that little pile down there, plus, the Batman in my hand? I've started replacing some of the DVDs that I care more about with their Blu ray versions. Something that I actually want to do, though, is be a little bit more specific. I want to go through and, take a note of the Blu-rays that I want and what I don't want. It's been quite fun getting Blu-rays recently because they're really cheap and I can get them pretty easily and in decently big supply. Like something that I got this week was the 5 Pirates of the Caribbean films. I love films. I love standing in front of films. I love looking at. I love the nostalgia that comes with some of these things, to the point where I'm almost hesitant to replace some of these things with their Blu-ray versions because they hold nostalgia for me. For example, immediately in my head when I think of that is this right here. Something that I want to do is I want to replace all of the X-Men films with their Blu-ray counterparts because none of them are Blu-ray. Probably the same thing for all of the Spider-Man films and all the MCU. Interestingly, or at least, when I say all of the MCU, I mean everything up to No Way Home. After that, I can take it or leave it. But I think, interestingly, I already have a couple of them on Blu-ray. But when it comes to the MCU, I know there's some like fancy-ass Infinity Saga box set thing that they do that I think is in a 3-phase thing. I've seen it before at HMV. I think I'll probably get that because it'll look the coolest. But when I'm talking about like replacing things and being a little bit sad because of nostalgia, in my head I'm thinking of things like this. This is X-Men and the Wolverine Adamantium collection, but it only goes up to the Wolverine, so it doesn't include Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, Logan, or pretty much anything since then, although I don't think there was anything since then. And I'm probably almost definitely quite certain that there is almost definitely probably a Blu-ray box set that just has literally all of them in, and it would probably take up less space on the shelf. It's interesting, when it comes to the layout of the shelves, my gaming shelves have been changed a million times over the last 2 years. The gaming shelves, once they were put together, basically hasn't. For anybody wondering, the way that the DVD shelves work is it starts at the top and from left to right goes horror in alphabetical order, but being overridden by franchise. So, for example, Friday the 13th, Jason Goes to Hell, and Jason X are all together because they're all Friday the 13th films, even though they don't necessarily share the same letter. Examples like that. Another example would be down here, Adulthood, Kidulthood, Brotherhood. I know that they're technically in the wrong order, but, it's the same thing there. Anyway, so it goes horror across the top. Well, across the top, very top, is my TV shows, which they would be prime candidates to be replaced on Blu-ray, to be fair, wouldn't they? Although I know that with some of the older stuff, there's potentially problems with that. So, for example, I've seen apparently before that there was like a Blu-ray version. There was some sort of release of Buffy where it doesn't look right, where things that were that were like lighting filters and things like that didn't carry over. So the mood of the scene isn't right and stuff like that. Breaking Bad is already Blu-ray. My Game of Thrones is incomplete. That's only seasons 1 to 7, which some would argue is probably a good place to stop. I think my Spartacus collection is Blu-ray. I'm not entirely sure. Vampire Diaries, Angel, Being Human. Being Human would it be a cool Blu-ray to have. I bet it's not very expensive either. But then there's some of the animated stuff that I don't think matters too much being on Blu-ray, because realistically, how much can it really change with, Digimon Season 1, 2, and 3, the Batman animated series, the X-Men animated series, Dungeons and Dragons. That's one of the most nostalgic things in my collection to me. Avatar, Korra, and Looney Tunes. Anyway, so then it goes the horror films. And then halfway through the horror films bit, it goes to the superhero stuff, starting with all the Supermans, the older Batmans, moving into the more modern DC stuff, then the Marvel stuff. Then it goes into like your action sort of films at the end of that, and your blockbusters. And so you got your Bourne films, your Die Hards, your Expendables, your Fasts, your Matrixes, your Lord of the Rings, the Pirates of the Caribbean, the Star Wars, and all that sort of thing. So Star Wars would be a good one for me to replace on Blu-ray as well. Taking a look, I already have the newer trilogy on Blu-ray. I don't have any recollection of buying that. In fact, that's a good move. I've just noticed that I already own Django Unchained on Blu-ray. I very nearly bought that on Blu-ray, not the other day. And so action and drama sort of carries on for quite a while. This shelf down here I quite like because it transitions into old school Hong Kong martial artsy films. So like old Bruce Lee, old Jackie Chan, that's all my era. It's sort of the stuff that I grew up with. And then we go into sort of comedy, not quite family comedy, because you got things like Bedazzled and Yes Man, and like adult comedies, Hangover, Kick Ass, all that sort of thing. That goes all the way down until we get to like the kids stuff, starting with like Casper and all of those. I'm missing a couple of Casper films. In fact, there is a Casper Christmas film that would make sense to get like ASAP. Then Flintstones, God, I love the Flintstones. And then actual kids stuff. What Pokemon films do I have? I think I own all the Pokemon films that I care about. Pokemon 1, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, they're the ones that matter. Power Rangers movie, Power Rangers Turbo, Robots, the 3 Rugrats films. Then we go to Scooby-Doo, which that's all of What's New Scooby-Doo, and then pretty much all the Scooby-Doo stuff that matters. And then all the Disney stuff that matters. But it would be very interesting to potentially get a certain box set that I know exists for Disney. And then a lot of the Pixar stuff too. This bottom shelf down here needs a complete rework because it's mostly just crap. It's stuff that for some reason hasn't got front covers. It's stuff from like under the bed at my mom's house when she moved out that I inherited, basically. It's not necessarily serving a purpose. And then some more box sets over here with Supernatural season 11 through 15, all of Arrow, Californication, and Heroes. Santa Claus 1 to 3 and Shrek 1 to 3. I don't know where 4 is. The SpongeBob movie, Band of Brothers and the Pacific, and then Ben 10, the box set. And behind that Ben 10 box set is actually Ben 10 Alien Force as well. So, yeah, that's how the way the DVDs are laid out. So something that I want to do is I want to go through and actually take an actual written note of things that I want to replace. Because otherwise, I'm going to accidentally buy things again. So, for example, some cool stuff to have on Blu-ray would be the Jurassic Park films, because I'm sure they would probably look pretty cool. The Hunger Games films. I would imagine that a lot of the sort of action-adventure stuff would probably look its best on Blu-ray, to be real. Although, I'm hesitant with some of the older stuff, because can older stuff really be improved that much by being on Blu-ray when it's so old to begin with? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, surely there is a ceiling for quality with some certain things versus like stuff that is recorded in a more modern way. I'm still holding that X-Men, by the way. But yeah, I love looking at a lot of these old box sets, and like I remember when I got a lot of them, or how I'm going to have to put the camera down to put that back. But for example, another box set that I want is all the Friday films. But weirdly, for some reason, the Friday films never include Jason Goes to Hell or Jason X on their Blu-rays. I don't know why that is. It seems to stop before then. So yeah, that is going to be one of my new collecting goals. Also, if you guys have made it this far into the video and you haven't already dropped me a subscribe, do be sure to fix that. Anyway, in other news, people have been asking me to talk more about films, and I suppose I've sort of been doing this entire time, but I got back from the cinema about an hour ago. I saw The Heretic with Hugh Grant and not Jenna Ortega and not Thomasin McKenzie. I was so certain that that was Thomasin McKenzie the entire time that when the credits rolled and it wasn't, I was like, huh. It wasn't Thomasin McKenzie. She looks so much like her. She sounds like her. Her hair's the same. She got the same face. I don't know. There's an archetype at the moment, I guess. But that was a great film. I love the fact that we have got a bit of a generation of horror films at the minute. That the entire budget seems to just be usually like one really good actor. Like, I think, for example, another example of this in like a few weeks is going to be The Covenant with Ralph Fiennes. I don't know how you pronounce the dude's name. Voldemort. That is probably going to be great because that man doesn't do things by halves. Another example of a film with not a massive budget, or at least if it did have a massive budget, it all went to the actors, was The Menu from a couple of years ago with, again, Anya Taylor-Joy, Nicholas Hoult, Ralph Fiennes. But anyway, The Heretic. 2 Mormon girls. Are they? Two Christians knock on the door to have a chat with Hugh Grant about religion, I guess. And he pulls a John Kramer, locks them in his house, bit of a puzzle house. They need to sort of debate their way through, and it's very intense a lot of the time. I think there's been a lot of films recently where just with words alone, you'd be made to feel uneasy. So Speak No Evil a few weeks ago was another example of this, where just really good actors in horror films recently. And I feel like there was a long time in like the mid-2000s where horror films didn't get that treatment, really. Horror films were throwaway things that nobody really cared about, and if there was a budget, it was to do with like the CGI or the gore and things like that. But now I think that we're getting some really good actors, so if there is a budget, for example, I don't know what the budget for The Heretic was, but I would hazard a guess that it all went to Hugh Grant for the most part, because I can't imagine that the other 2 women got paid very much, because I don't think they've been in much. I think one of them was in The Boogeyman last year, which, fun fact, I got invited to Leicester Square to see at the premiere. That was interesting. Been a while since I've been to any of those. I was dieting. It was not it was a long day. I was nearly dead by the end of it. But yeah, being real with you, I'm not very good at reviewing films because it usually amounts to me saying, yeah, I really liked it. It was really good. I enjoyed it. Or I didn't enjoy it. It was really bad. I didn't like it. Outside of that, I'm like, I don't know. For anybody wondering about why there's no full day vlog for Sunday, it's because nothing happened. When it comes to doing these vlogs, I think I'm going to have to pick and choose my days. I think it's unrealistic for me to do a daily vlog every day because there just isn't something going on in my day every single day to record. So yeah, yeah, more content types, I guess. If I've got stuff occurring, I'll film. If I don't, I won't, I suppose, is probably the logical way to go about that. But The Heretic was great. We're at the cinema again tomorrow. For you guys, it'll be tonight. We're seeing Saw, which is interesting because I just referenced John Kramer. Saw's 20th anniversary, which is wild to me. You'd thought they'd have got it out for Halloween rather than the start of November because I'm pretty sure that for like 7 years, Saw was a Halloween tradition. Like, if I remember right, I'm pretty sure that it released on Halloween Day pretty commonly. I remember because I think what if I think Saw finished for the first time because obviously they sort of brought it back with Saw 10 last year in like 2011 or so. So for a long time through my like teenage years ish or like early teenage years, I suppose, there was a new Saw film constantly, just all the time. I'm pretty sure they were a yearly release back then, which is crazy when you think about it, with the turnaround that must have been. But I suppose when it's mostly a different cast besides Tobin Bell, despite the fact that he died in Saw 3 and there's now like 11 of those films, but you know. And then we're going to the cinema again on Wednesday, so Sunday, Monday and Wednesday this week. On Wednesday we're seeing Juror Number 2 with Nicholas Hoult, where a dude is summoned for jury duty and he realises that he may actually have been the guy that offed somebody by accident at some point in the past. I know what you did last summer style. It looks like it's going to be good. Nicholas Hoult tends to be decent in anything he's in. The man doesn't seem to want to age. He looks exactly the same now as he did in X-Men First Class 13 years ago. And I bet he was only about 20 in that. And if he was like 30 in that, then Jesus Christ, the man really is drinking from the fountain of youth. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all later.